Legals obviously is known as a premier seafood restaurant, but we're also very into oysters. Our oysters, once we procure them from different areas around the country, mostly locally, they're brought into the QCC, which is our quality control center, which is down on the Boston waterfront. If you haven't seen it, you might have been flying by Logan, see this big fish in the sky with a glowing eye. That's our fish. That's our kind of icon of Boston. So we'll pick out different oysters. Our fish wire goes out there, picks out the varieties that we want to buy, and they come into the QCC. After that, we quarantine them until they're tested. So we'll separate them by bed and type, and they're set up in the QCC that way, and then we'll quarantine them until the sanitarian gets a chance to monitor the oysters. So we take samples of all those batches that come in the door, and then we test them for quality and toxins. Not until they pass our standards are they released to the restaurants. If they don't pass, no matter if it's 10 pounds of oysters or 5,000 pounds of oysters, we'll reject them.
The oysters are absolutely delicious. We especially like PEI oysters because we love Prince Edward Island, and it's wonderful to compare the tastes and lovely company.
The selection of oysters is great, showing us how to open them, and the people walking around with the hot oyster things are terrific.
It's kind of like wine. There's so much to learn about oysters. There's actually really only 5 species of oysters, but there's many different varieties of oysters. The species of oysters are eastern oysters, which most of which we have today, and that's what we like to sell, is eastern oysters. Pacific oysters, which are West Coast oysters, and some other wider oysters we have on the West Coast. There's also Kumamoto's, which is also often confused as a West Coast oyster, but it's its own species. Kumamoto's is by itself, it's its own species. And then there's European flat oysters, and there are Olympia oysters as well. So those are the 5 general species of oysters. From that, there's hundreds of varieties.
A friend of mine invited me, and the oysters are delicious. We're having a wonderful time.